He is, of course, Zachary Stewart. Zach, let's make sure we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Fabulously. Hello, good morning to you, and welcome to us on our Tony show. Zach, let me give you a little bit of let me also find the page
Take your
with
time.
my stuff for you. I've got like 20 pages of notes here
Uh-huh.
that I have to
Uh-huh.
just get through, but I will because Zachary Stewart is the chief critic of TheaterMania.com. He's also vice president of the New York Drama Critics Circle, and he, of course, writes all his theater reviews for Theater Mania. Did I miss something, Zach?
Vice President and Treasurer, I am the Marco Rubio of the New York Drama Critics Circle. I do all of the jobs except president.
Oh, well, do you want to be president someday, or you want to?
I used to. Now I'm not so sure because the biggest part of that job is planning a party, and I'm not so sure that's what I want to do. Adam Feldman does that fabulously every year. And so,
Wow. Yeah, it
yeah.
wouldn't occur to me. I would, yeah, but that's what it is. It's one giant, huge. And that's the thing. But it's great that you're treasurer. Nobody wants to do that job.
No, it's not fun.
Yeah.
You were never on a co-op board, were you, Dave?
No, we had a townhome with a thing, but I never got
Oh,
involved.
good for
Yeah,
you. Yeah, that's like the mob. My husband does that business, and it's like once you get in, you can't get out.
and they pull you back.
Uh-huh.
But that's movies. That's not theater. We're talking theater with Zachary Stewart, who is here to discuss very specifically one category: revival of a play. So. What we can do is, we want to go through them one by one, or should I list them all? How do you want to do it, Zach?
Go for it. Yeah, please.
So let's start with, and you'll tell us, what you hope will win, what you think will win, anything left out. Revival of a play includes Becky Shaw by Gina Gianfrido. Your thoughts?
Oh my gosh, this is a 20-year-old play. It's very much a period piece if we're thinking of the George W. Bush era as a period, which I guess it was now, right? I mean, it's these are things we
A
all lived
horrible.
through.
Yeah.
And so for my money, this was actually the best play on Broadway this season. I loved this show. But and it has never been on Broadway before, but because of what is called the classics rule, which is something we'll talk about with several of these candidates, it is included in this category. It has been presented at regional theaters. This isn't the original production from 2008. Obviously, it hasn't been spending 20 years weaving its way to Broadway, but it has never been on Broadway. So it's included there. Yeah, I think if this was included in the best play category, it would have a real shot of winning, but it's not going to win here.
Oh, okay. So one of the other shows that it is up against is, well, yeah, I don't know if you've heard of this one. I certainly had never heard of it until this year. A guy named Arthur Miller wrote this play called
Mhm.
Death of a Salesman, Death of a Salesman.
Uh,
Your thoughts?
well, this fits the category much better, I think, right? I mean, this is a category for canonical plays that everybody knows, but you're reviving them on Broadway. Yeah, 1949, a beautiful production by Joe Mantello. This is the front runner, obviously. Nathan Lane, Laurie Metcalf, Clock Twink, Christopher Abbott, they're all in it, starry cast, Winter Garden Theater, but it's still selling out. Yeah, I think this is the front runner.
Well, is it the front runner for you? You seem to hedge a little bit in terms of it being, well, you like Becky Shaw a lot. So
Yeah.
you've seen so many Death of a Salesman. Is this up there? Is it middle for
Well,
you?
people always say that to me, and actually, they didn't start inviting me until it wasn't until the Wendell Pierce production. I didn't see Philip Seymour Hoffman. I didn't see
Oh,
Brian Dennehy.
Dennehy was incredible, but yeah, okay, yeah.
Everybody says Dennehy was incredible and quite scary. I thought this was a great production, though. It really. Here's the thing, you're performing this for a Broadway audience of a lot of them are knowledge workers, right? It's people who sit in front of screens all day, and they're being told constantly by their bosses that they are replaceable, that we will replace you in the next few years with AI. So this show really touches a nerve. It always has in a dynamic economy like the United States, but right now it specifically does for this audience. It was all fun and games when we were shipping jobs to China. And we would say, well, you should go learn to code. Well, fool me once, right? Those are the jobs that are being replaced
Mm.
fastest now. And this is a show about a man who plays by the rules, does well by his family, tries to do everything right, and at the end he is shoved off a cliff.
Wow. Wow. You talk so succinctly about a show that we all know. By the way, we have Oh, Ray from my cousin Michael is one of the people that just coding in that they're watching. Yes, so yay, we actually have a viewer. So
Hi,
yeah,
viewer.
hi viewer, hi Ray. But next show it fits into the more of the Becky Shaw category because the revival is Every Brilliant Thing by Duncan Macmillan. So your thoughts on this play?
A 13-year-old play has never been on Broadway, was off Broadway briefly, but is done, I think, at regional theaters everywhere, more so in the UK than in the United States, but it has
Mhm.
been done in the United States. And again, it fits under this classics rule. But do you really think of this? This is kind of like a one-man show, feel good, anti-suicide show. It's Daniel Radcliffe glad-handing with the audience. It's very fun to have Harry Potter stare into your eyes and tell you you're very special. That might be worth a $150 ticket. And but like, is this a revival? Is this a classic on par with Death of a Salesman? I don't think so. If I had, this was the category that had the most eligible candidates of the year. There were 11 shows that were produced on Broadway that could have gone into this category. And there were some real big ones that were left out, like the excellent revival of Tracy Letts's Bug, which is not in here. Waiting for Godot, not as excellent, but
Okay.
still a towering work of Western drama.
Yeah.
Uh, that's not in there. And so Art, Yasmina Reza, which won the Tony Award, was back with a starry cast, not in this category. So I think this is perhaps the strangest play to include in this category this year. It's absolutely not going to win.
Should it have been a special, or is it still a play? Yeah.
I would have done that actually, Dave. I would have put Daniel Radcliffe and the whole production and given them a special Tony and just kind of shunted them off to the side. But now, of course, he's also in actor in a play, right? He's up there against
Oh,
Nathan Lane and John Lithgow
right. So you
for
can't.
every brilliant thing. And so, again, Daniel Radcliffe is a wonderful man. He has all of that Harry Potter screw you money. He never has to do another thing in his life. He could just do theater for the rest of his life. And he's using that power for good. We love
Hey,
him on Broadway. He'll be back.
he also played Weird Al Yankovic, so he has
Uh-huh.
he's got
Yeah,
my street
uh,
cred forever for
for
that.
sure.
Now, speaking of street cred for comedy, Noel Coward,
Hmm.
is a pretty well-known figure in comedy, but Fallen Angels was not a particularly well-known Coward play, and they revived that this year. It's up for Tony for revival, and Zach.
Yeah, it's very funny, It's a play about non-monogamy from the 1920s, speaking to us from a century ago to a time when that has become very en vogue, even for the heterosexuals. They're not as good at it, but they really do try. And this is a play about heterosexual non-monogamy. It's very funny. It's British. It's witty. It's not going to win this category because I do think that in awards we tend to favor dramatic plays and performances. Comedy is really hard. I wish we awarded it with that recognition. But I doubt this is going to win. It's Rose Byrne and Kelly O'Hara, both of whom are nominated in the Best Actress in a Leading Role in a Play category. I think their votes are going to kind of cancel each other out.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
Now we do have one more, and this for me feels like the co-front runner with Death of a Salesman for this
yeah,
category, and it's a play much older than any of these, including Salesman, written by initially written by Sophocles, but it's Oedipus or Oedipus Rex as adapted by Robert. I don't know if it's Ike or Ick. If you, do you know
I believe.
it is Ike.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have had strong feelings about this play. Many of them positive, saying it's a thrilling production. Your thoughts?
Oh, it was. If I could choose the best revival this year, I think that it might be this. I keep going back and forth because, you're in this theater watching a 2,400-year-old story. We know that it's like Oedipus sleeps with his mom. Like we know what that it is, but people gasped when that was revealed because, Robert Icke has really rewritten it and adapted it and set it to the modern political context about a politician whose origins are a little hazy and there's calls for his birth certificate to be released. And so this has echoes very recently in American politics. Um, yeah,
And
it was
is there a
just
politician these days who isn't a motherfucker? I mean, quite honestly.
I didn't know if we could swear on this show, Dave, but now
Oh.
I'm glad we get to know. That was
Yeah.
actually, they were selling it at the merch stand. Life is a Motherfucker
Oh, there you go.
was a t-shirt there at Studio 54. Yeah, it was a stunning production. This is also though a controversial show to include because arguably it is a completely rewritten play. It's a new play by Robert Icke, right? It's not being produced. performed in Greek. It's not, a literal translation. Um, but it is being included here in Revival as well. If
Yeah, that's
anything could,
interesting. Yeah, if you had changed the names instead of using it would be a new play, essentially, is what you're saying.
basically, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just using that title, Oedipus. And we have to call it Oedipus apparently because this is how the British pronounce it. And so their cultural imperialism has wafted across. We have Waiting for Godot, and now we have Oedipus.
Oedipus Rooks, by the way. That's
Uh-huh.
how they're. But I just want to throw in. Stay tuned, everybody watching this show, because you're going to win. You can win a copy of Robert Icke's Oedipus, his translation, his adaptation of it. So that'll be a little later in the show. But before we let you go, Zachary Stewart, I want to ask, what is the first live theater production that you ever saw? Or what is the first Broadway show you ever saw?
Well, I'm going to answer both of them. The first live theater production was a church backyard production of Pippin. And I remember having to urinate worse than I've ever had in my entire life. I was a kid and, so waiting for the intermission. But it wasn't a bad production. But the first real professional production I saw was the first national tour of Ragtime. And I saw it at Playhouse Square in Cleveland. I grew up in Cincinnati and we never could afford to see any of the touring shows, but I was up there with a friend, a wealthier friend whose family kindly bought us tickets to see Ragtime, and it absolutely changed my life. It was incredible to see that thing. I don't think I'd be here talking to you right now without that production of Ragtime.
And it
So
certainly
very exciting for it to be back on Broadway this season for me. I
yeah.
mean, it's been
Did you love the revival? Because people are saying it's the best of the previous Ragtimes, or that original was so beautifully produced by Garth Drabinsky.
No, I think Leah DeBessone has done a fine job with this. Sometimes she's a bit of a lazy director. You can tell that she, puts the actors on stage and says, this is placeholder blocking. We're going to come back and redo it. And then she never really does. It doesn't reinvent the wheel. It does pare it down. The set is very smart. It's less expensive. They have splurged on the orchestra, however. It's 28 pieces. You hear woodwinds, you hear brass, you hear a harp. There is no other show on Broadway that sounds like this. And it gives you a taste of what Broadway used to sound like, this big, meaty, symphonic sound that you don't often hear. So I really love this production for that. And of course, it has amazing vocalists. Joshua Henry will finally win his Tony Award after 4 nominations. That is almost the only sure bet at these awards on Sunday.
Wow. And they didn't have to reinvent the wheels of a dream.
No.
So inside Ragtime. Anywho, we've been talking with Zachary Stewart. Remember, you can read his reviews at theatermania.com. He is, in fact, the chief critic there, and also vice president and treasurer, but probably never president, of the New York Drama Critics Circle. Zach, I wish you
It's
were
like poor Marco, I'm afraid.
Are you going to the Tonys or going to watch it on TV? Or are you going to
No, I'll be at home in my jammies reviewing the telecast. I used to go to the press room, which is at the Republican Ladies Club across the street from Radio City Music Hall. And I'll tell you, Dave, there's nothing more depressing than when the Tony Award winner for lighting design in a play gets up on a stage in front of 200 reporters. It's the best night of their lives, and no one has a single question for them because they're like, who wants to read about lighting design? It's the worst thing. So I try to avoid that particular circle of hell on this night.
Yeah, you don't want lighting designers to have a dark night of the soul, quite
No.
honestly. I'm sorry about that joke, but I'm never sorry I'm having Zach Stewart in the neighborhood with us. Thank you so much, Zach. Have a wonderful 2026-27 season, and we'll see you next year.
You as well. Always a pleasure, Dave. Bye-bye.